What I would tell every African builder and creator today is you can decide what you want to do and do it. You can decide that from Yaba in Lagos, you are building a software that people are paying you from Toronto to Maryland, Houston to Coventry to London to Paris to North Kent, wherever in the world, things can be accessible on the internet. They can use it and they can finish it. African creators, look at your agenda, look at what you want to achieve, look at the field you are playing in. If it pays you to build for the world, go ahead and do it without apologizing. And go ahead and sell to people at all without apologizing. If your business is focused on the local context and everything, local culture, go ahead and do it as well. Nothing stops you.
African Entrepreneurs Podcast.
All right, Mayowa, thank you very much for taking this call. We really appreciate you talking to us at African Entrepreneurs at Berkeley podcast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to be here speaking with you.
All right. So for our audience, I think it's very good to just create a kind of introduction or give more information about what we are trying to discuss here. For context, we have been talking about why Africa needs to build its own infrastructure across different industries. And today we are talking to a professional in the film and creative space. He's going to be walking us through why Africa needs to build its own creative infrastructure, why that matters. And he will just be walking us through what he has been doing, his story, and his own views on that particular subject matter. So Mayowa Ayodeji, we've seen that you've done amazing stuff with Filmporte. But before then, I want to believe that you've been doing a lot of things within the technology and creative space. Can you just walk us through your story and tell us who Mayowa is?
Thank you very much, Atim. So, who am I? I'm tempted to say we are pencils with the hands of God.
I'll be correct.
Wait, let me ask you a question. Do you know what film I'm referencing with that statement?
Pencils in the hands. I just know that I don't know the exact film, so maybe you can educate me and the audience.
So, if you grew up in Nigeria, there is a popular sitcom that especially millennials grew up on, and it's called Super Story.
Yes. Wale
Yes.
Adenuga, right? Is it Wale
Yes,
Adenuga?
correct. Yes, correct. So at the end of each episode, they will put this description. We are all pencils in the hands of the creator. Right. So well, good icebreaker, I guess. I'm Mayowa. I am an entrepreneur, a tech entrepreneur specifically. I love to build out solutions for tough problems that you can monetize. So I believe that technology has no significant use if it cannot generate some income to keep it going and to make impact on the wider scale. Let me step back a bit. So I was born into an average home. My parents were civil servants, and both of them were working for the federal government. I grew up, I would say, partly sheltered in the sense that my parents were very intentional about what we were exposed to and the kind of environments we lived in. I spent a good amount of time in an academic environment because my dad was a senior staff at one of the most popular universities out of Africa, Mayowa University. Um, I mean, I grew up in that environment. It was serene, it was nice, and all. Um, I primarily went to private schools all my life. All right. As far as I can remember, from primary school to secondary school to university, it was all private. I think, yeah, it was all private. My secondary school was a redeemed school in redemption camp. So I grew up in um, a Christian home where we were exposed to a lot of film, although um, there was a lot of influence from Christian films, right? I mean, Mount Zion. I mean, if you're a millennial from out of Nigeria, you know the likes of Akbar Allah, and all of that. But I mean, we watched other things. It wasn't just that. I grew up watching the likes of Sound of Music, Coming to America, The Ghost Must Be Crazy, and that's films coming from there. You know, from outside Nigeria, I watched Terminator, so it wasn't just Christian films I was consuming growing up, but I consumed a lot of film. I consumed a lot of action films. We had these neighbors, the O'Harris. They had three boys, and then their last child is a girl. I will sneak from our house upstairs. I will go downstairs and go watch action films in their house. Right when my parents were out to work, and maybe I came back from school earlier than them, I watched Commandos, I watched Terminator, I watched a lot of Hollywood films growing up. I Sometimes later I started watching a lot of films coming out of China as well, a lot of Jackie Chan, Jet Li movies. So all those things sort of like shaped my perception about these countries, and I'm sure it did for a large part of our generation as well. But anyways, I grew up on that. I did a short stint at OAU before I eventually went to Covenant University. So this is where I can, directly tie it to my career, as well. So I studied engineering in school, and that sort of gave me this, would I say, background of having a go at difficult things. If you studied engineering, one way or the other, you are used to having hard problems to solve. Um, I remember so many different topics and concepts. So I did electrical engineering in Covenant in Nigeria. I did a bit of not for profit afterwards, and then I went to the UK for my master's, which was engineering business management. Now, when I was doing my engineering degree in Nigeria, I had made up my mind because I had seen the patterns, I seen the kind of person I am or I was at the time, and where my interest lies and the things I wanted to do. And I saw that in as much as I love the problem solving part of engineering, as I said earlier, I love the business and people and management side of it. So you could find me so luckily for me, the school that I went to, Covenant, we had entrepreneurial business studies. So entrepreneurial development studies, pardon me, EDS. And you have to do at least one version of that course every semester throughout. So whether you're in engineering or you're in, biological sciences or you're in humanities or you're in business or whatever course you were doing, you needed to do entrepreneurship. So that's another key part of my journey that formed where I am today. So you needed to do entrepreneurship. If it's just to learn about what is a business model, or if it's every semester you must do a course on entrepreneurship, and you must do a course called Total Man Concept, which basically informed, will I say, self leadership. Right. So imagine doing that every semester over the years. There's some, whether you accept it or not, there's some conditioning, and there's some things that just keep seeping into the banks of your person. And there are some things you will naturally be familiar with by the time you're done with school. So I did engineering business management in Coventry, lovely and all of that. At the time, I still didn't know I was going to be in tech because um, while I was in technology or engineering, but most of my courses and my research and all of that focused on the automotive sector, right? Focused on the automotive sector. And all this while in my life, let me reference film again. I was just a film consumer. I didn't really know much about how the film business worked or what's happened, what led to the kind of film I'm watching today. But then when I did that and I finished, I worked with a higher education regulator for a bit, and then I worked in a bank in the UK for like 2 months. It was a very short stint, and then I returned to Nigeria. So when I returned to Nigeria was when my tech journey actually started. This was May of 2018. So I got this job in this company called iCube Labs. iCube Labs is a very unique company because when I got there, so they were an applied computer science, research and development company. That was what they were, right? So that is just pure or big English for they were a bunch of very talented engineers who loved to do a lot of advanced engineering work, stuff that was mostly more advanced than the ecosystem in Nigeria then, but there wasn't a strong business side to them. So I found that the founder brought me in because he needed someone who was trained or who understood engineering but had business business, management, acumen, and I guess that was why it brought me into the picture. So when I got into the picture, I had to set up business system. Okay, this is how we'll do sales. This is how we'll sell the so build out the clientele, basically the client facing side of the business. So I had to build that out, got a number of interesting clients, set clients, and used the strength of the engineering team to be able to solve those problems. But this is I can talk about my experience in that company all day, but these two things are the most important things you should know about that in my story. Number one, it was a sector agnostic company, right? And that meant that so long as there was a problem anywhere that technology can solve, that company positioned itself to be able to solve it, no matter the kind of technology that was needed to solve it. So we did a lot of projects in so many different sectors. And I'm talking end to end, from discussing the problem statement with clients, to doing research, to designing the solutions, to building the solutions using technology, to deploying, to support. We did everything end to end across different industries. So think about healthcare, think about education, think about logistics, retail. I mean, think about, I already mentioned education, think about finance, you know, think about biometrics and security, and think about telecommunications. We were very strong in telecoms. So all these things exposed me to how, how, you work in consulting, right? Say you work in McKinsey or KPMG or any of the, I don't know which ones do they call big four, whatever. You work in those consultants that,
WC, those are the ones they call the big four. Yeah.
yes, yes. So you work in those consulting companies that they are not tax alone or audit alone, but management consulting, where you go and you solve any kind of problem. So that's what that company was eventually. Like at the bottom line, that's what it was. And we solved any kind of problem using technology. So with that, in a few years, based on the back of having gone the cycle over and again, identify the problem in a new industry, throw yourself into the research, talk to the people you need to talk to, pull in the necessary kind of models, both business and technology models, and create an innovative solution to mitigate that problem and make money out of it. So that became like my bread and butter, right? And then so that's the first thing. It was a technology agnostic company that solved problems end to end across so many different sectors successfully. The second thing that's important to my journey there was slightly over a year before I left the company. Um, I started my first company, but the first startup I ever founded. But it was as an entrepreneur, or will I say an entrepreneur in residence within that. So I mean, I was leading IQ Labs. I was the business lead, but where business lead is same time as operations manager, doing project management, technical project management, product management, account management. I did everything, and I did them at a very high level. So imagine as at 2018, 2019, we were already advanced in AI in this company, and I mean, this is 2026. AI is the only thing everybody's talking about. But as at 2018, this company, we had a lot of, we had models, we had built stuff in AI, we had speech AI, we had computer vision AI. We were doing this research. It was voice over internet protocol, right? And what does that mean? Being able to speak as we're speaking now, but we're speaking over the internet, but having that technology deployed, on telecoms networks, so you didn't need airtime to talk. It was internet that was powering the. So we were doing that research and looking for use cases and all of that. And this was late 2019. I mean, COVID had started springing up in different parts of the world. And by early 2020, COVID had hit Nigeria, right? Q3, Q4 2019, COVID wasn't in Nigeria yet. So early 2020, COVID had hit Nigeria. When COVID hit Nigeria, um, but it was a mess. Why? Because communications were down. Like from the people pranking to the people calling for real things to the people calling for basic things that they're not. Bro, you don't have COVID, it's just cough. Like, it was a mess. So, and the NCDC, instead of staff in Nigeria, their call center was overwhelmed. And I saw a tweet by the then director of the NCDC that their call center was overwhelmed and they needed help. They wanted to hire more people. I remember we had been doing research on voice over internet protocol. You know, I just told my team, I'm like, guys, we can build a solution for this guy. Voice over internet protocol with AI means that if 1 million people are calling this line, our engines, our AI, using the internet, can respond to all of them 247, get information, process it, give the necessary feedback, direct them to the necessary channels. Easy, right? And everybody was like, yes, 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 let's do it. And then, we decided to build something for it. Interestingly, around the same time, Ventures Platform, one of the leading African VCs, and last week, Lagos State Science Research and Innovation Council, and I think US Embassy and some other partners, same thing, they had come up with a challenge. I think it started from Ventures Platform, I can't remember. And it was the COVID-19 Innovation Challenge for Nigeria. And I'm like, good, let's 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 apply. And then we applied for it and were selected as one of the 7 winners out of over 500 applicants, I believe. So I led a team of 5, including myself. There were 3 engineers, there was another PM, and then I was like the senior PM or whatever you can call it. All of us were just innovating around it. And we won it. We did a demo for the NCDC for deployment, integrations with MTN, integration with different partners, and all that. And it was interesting. But shortly after that, it was now like, what next? Is this going to be a social enterprise? But by then, I learned things around, you know, um, um, documentations, developer APIs. So eventually, it was like this solution that we built for the NCDC to be able to speak to millions of people, hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of people in a day. Businesses can use it to solve customer service. And we're like, okay, you know what? Let us try it out. So I started talking to businesses, start asking about their needs and all of that, and then designed it. So basically pivoted it from that social solution into a what's it called? Into a SaaS platform, software as a service. Where you come on board, you can sign up, use a graphic user interface, or use a developer API with documentation integrate, and use that to power your customer service communications. And it was interesting. I onboarded about 6 enterprise clients before I eventually left. So there was Truck, there was Old School Africa, there was Bumper, there was OPay, right? But the OPay one it wasn't a direct one. It was through one of our telecoms partners. I told you we're doing stuff in telecoms, right? So through one also we facilitated that, did OPay and I'm not sure OPay really deployed that solution at scale. So they did integrations and all of that. Because I left. OPay was like the last major client when I left. So this what has formed who I am today. So imagine having that kind of experience where, you're innovating from within, you're building for clients, you're doing all of that. When I left there, I did a few things, I did something in blockchain. There was this company called Big Power that I joined as a business manager, supported with building out the funnel of businesses. It was a blockchain infrastructure, or it is, they still exist today. By the way, the other one I said founded from within IQ Lab is called My Service Agent, and it's a startup still currently running to this. Yeah, My Service Agent.
Is it still running within IQ Lab, or is it like an independent company right now?
Oh, no. Because when I say I founded it, I basically hired the first set of people. So it's broke out to become its own startup.
Okay.
They are still very much affiliated. I mean, till I left, there was still a lot of shared resources.
But it's running independently. Okay.
Independently. Yeah.
Can it raise capital by itself? Can it raise capital? Like, did you try to raise capital for that particular service offering, given that it had a lot of use cases, it had a lot of clouds?
Okay. So, fundraising was ongoing by the time I left. I, in as much as I set it up, like I floated it, alongside the founders of IK Labs, I didn't, on paper, by the time it became a company of its own, I wasn't part of it on paper. Although, in the background, I did, most of the work, closing these businesses and all that. But on paper, by the time it went out, um, I wasn't part of the business because um, I was on my way out, by the
I
time.
do actually know. I actually met, one of the founders or the CEO of Beat Power when we went for one. But that was Toby, right? Toby is his name,
Okay,
right?
it's okay. Yeah, Toby's my friend. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I met
yeah,
I met him one day in San Francisco, so it was good. I
yeah.
just
He's
like,
an SF. He's an SF.
yeah. Alrighty. I think that's fine. I think let's just segue straight into your introduction to films. I think you've given extensive review about your technology background. So how did you get
Yeah.
introduced to films? I know you mentioned Terminator, you mentioned your Chinese and Hollywood influence. When did you start liking African stories? Like what drew you to films?
What drew me to films? Like, do you mean as a businessman or
Both first time, both are growing
or,
up, both
or as a consumer?
as a consumer. How did you like move from a consumer to the other side of the divide in films?
I'm still a consumer, but I get what you mean. No problem. So, like I said, growing up, I watched a lot of films. When it comes to African films, I watched a lot of. It was mostly Christian films, faith-based films when I was growing up. All right. Um, I didn't really do much of Nollywood that was not faith-based. So maybe I was older, right? But outside of that, I consumed a lot of Western film and Eastern film. So Eastern meaning Ind. Did I consume Indian? No, I didn't really watch a lot of Indian so much either. But I watched a lot of Chinese action films. Jackie Chan, Jet Li, those were my guys, right? Um, I think I've seen one film from Bruce Lee. But then I saw a lot of Hollywood films, growing up. So I was always a consumer, but I was not the I was not the type that if I don't watch film, I'll die. Although there were different stages in my life where there were some films that I consumed and I loved and I loved. Um, it got to a point where I became a big fan of series, but I'm very picky with the kind of series I watch. Right, it's not just any type. Then it's either it's action or it's legal drama or it's business wars, right? Or like startup and all of that. So I mean, I consume that. I will romance, general drama and thriller. Yes, it is nice, but I wasn't. So I had this roommate in Covenant University, Mayowa Ayodeji. We used to call him Eminem. There was no film you were looking for. This guy probably had 500 films on his computer at some point or 1,000. I'm telling you, and this guy like film. So we shared the same bunk. So I was up. He was, at the below ground. He was always playing films. So I don't know. Maybe those things
Nice too.
did something at some point, but I wasn't. I was always hearing films from his end, but I was not the type to always go out there and watch them. So, but the transition to being a business person in films happened last year, 2025, right? Before then, I mean, I'd become more aware of ongoings in Nollywood, Hollywood, Bollywood, Ghanaian, South Africa. In fact, there was a time that if I turned on my Netflix, um, I am looking for a South African action film. I was very specific. If you go to my history on my Netflix, you see South African action film. You see action. You see, I didn't deliberately search for Nigerian films because not a lot of Nigerian films are on Netflix anyways. I mean, at every point in time, maybe 10, 20, 30 or something. I don't know. But in 2024, um, there is a there's a Nigerian filmmaker who um has a unique way of distributing her films. She called it virtual cinema, right?
Who is that person?
And pardon?
Who is that person?
Oh, her name is Laju A.
Laju Iren. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, her name is Laju Iren.
Is he the Pastor Emmanuel Iren's wife?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And she's herself and her husband are my pastors, by the way. So, so I so this new way of distributing film, Nigerians normally or anywhere, you release a film, if you want people to watch it, you take the cinemas or you put it on YouTube or you do Netflix or Prime. I mean, she had done Prime before. Um, she had done some short films on YouTube. Yeah. And then they're like, you know what? We're going to be doing virtual cinema. It's a virtual cinema again. It's okay, Sha. We are your fans. You're good. I mean, she's a great storyteller. So I'm like, let's go. And then she decides to sell tickets. So the concept of virtual, that was when I first learned about the concept of virtual cinema. And it
Yeah.
was that
I think this is interesting. This was my next question. So just tell us, maybe
so
in addition to telling us the virtual cinemas, you can also tell us like how that's connected to Filmport.
yeah, sure, I will. So the concept of virtual cinema, I learned it directly from her. I mean, she's a pioneer of virtual cinema in Nigeria, as far as we're concerned. So, and it means you see that cinema experience where you go to a location, you buy a ticket to watch a film, you go into the film hall, you watch your film, and that's it. If you go out when the film is done, if you come in, you will have to buy a ticket again. The film is only available for a certain period of time. So anytime within that period, you can come in, watch and leave, pay, watch and leave. So she basically digitized that experience. And I think it's because she used to sell books online using seller. So maybe that was why that concept came. But I don't know. If you speak to Ayaka, but yeah, I mean, she did it. And I found it interesting because we are in an age where a lot of people don't have time to do physical cinema. People still show up, but a lot more people who buy tickets to watch a film, they are always busy. People are busier now. People are on the move now. The world is a bit more global now. There's a high possibility that a good number of people who follow you, who love your work, are not only in the country where you reside in. So there's a high level of internet leverage you need to put into your business model, any kind of business you're doing. So, well, I decided to buy a ticket. So she sold the tickets using a platform. She hosted the film on another platform. Then she found a way to generate the links and the access code. So she will send emails to the people who bought the ticket, and then those people click on that link to access the film. And the concept was just new and all. So December 2024, I tried to buy a ticket for. So then she was doing um Christmas 3 in 1. So you buy a ticket, you can watch 3 films from her. I mean, who doesn't like a bargain? What do you mean? I bought a ticket, and when I bought the ticket, time went by. Time to watch the film, nothing. I didn't get my ticket. I mean, I bought it, I had moved on. So I reached out to our team, and then the reason was that, the platform we used to generate the tickets doesn't generate tickets for email addresses that are not Gmail. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is 2024. Like, what do you mean? But anyways, they helped me out. I watched the film with my family. We're good. And then at this time, I was I was running my former startup called Endowed Africa. Um, Endowed was an international tuition payments platform that allowed Africans going to study abroad to pay their tuition fees in Naira from Nigeria. Right. So by this time, let's not get started with that. But the international student market was already imploding, and the company wasn't doing well. So January 2025, I am in a corner of my living room. I'm praying, just thinking, what's up? The company wasn't doing well. What am I going to do? And well, I literally heard it in my spirit that this this problem you saw in virtual cinema in the film industry last year, just last December here, till now nobody has solved it. Have you tried to solve it? It was like a conversation in my head. Like, yes, it's true, but I mean, I'm not a film person. But I'm a technology person. It is a technology solution. I'll bring it out, right? So that was the first time the suggestion came to mind. I didn't do anything about it at first, and it kept reoccurring. I guess I initially didn't think of doing anything because we were struggling in endowed Africa then. We're trying to stay alive. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to ask questions. Remember what I told you about what we did back then in IQ? Someone brings a problem, you need to solve it. You ask the person as much questions, you do your research, you immerse yourself in the industry, go and find every single kind of information you can and just put them together, analyze it and understand where exactly you're going. So I disturbed everybody that was doing something related to film around me. I have friends who are actors, I have friends who are directors, I have friends who are producers, distributors. My brother, I asked all of them questions. Now, I started from this person's film, Nigerian, that I tried to watch, the year before. I didn't start with her. I went to her, a team member who solved the problem for me. Remember, I said my ticket did not work because I didn't have a Gmail. I went to her and I asked questions. I said, so what are the problems you guys are facing? What platforms do you use? What do they give you? What don't they give you? What I asked all the questions. Then I have a friend who's a film distributor. I called her. I would call her almost every other day. The first day we spoke about this idea, I think we spoke for like 2 hours, asking questions. What is this? What is that? I called filmmakers in the US, in Nigeria, in the UK. I spoke. Oh my God. In fact, some of the conversations have been documented. And I just because I really wanted to know because it's an industry that what I will be bringing is my technology acumen, not my film expertise. I needed to understand what I was getting into. So I spoke with as many people as possible. And then I went to Nigeria and I went to meet her. Like I said, she's my pastor, so it was after one of our programs. I went to her and okay, no. What actually happened was she wanted to see me for something else, and by the time we were talking about that thing had a relation to films. So, and I'm like, who told her I've been thinking about film? I said, okay, no problem. When she was done, I just started smiling. Why are you smiling? Then I told her my idea. She was like, amazing. I've been looking for someone to do this in a better way for me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, no problem. This is the validation I need. And then I fixed the meeting, some meetings. So the very first version of Filmport, so we used to be called Polaroid. So the first name was Polaroid. Right. So the very first version, I vibe coded it last year. I vibe coded the very first version. I used Berkeley. I vibe coded it, did integrations and all of that. And I took it to our office. I showed it to her. Like, this is what I'm building. And she's like, okay, that's good. Keep it up and everything. Nothing sealed, but then I got some feedback. I spoke to some other people. I spoke to even David of Communicate because they're a media company that was really focused on the creative sector. So I'm like, this guy will know something. I showed what I was building to a number of people, and they're like, yes, go ahead. We need it. We're looking for this. And that was what I needed. By the time I got all that validation, I went all in. By March last year, I shut down in South Africa, and then I went by April, I registered Polaroid, that is now Filmporte, registered it, started working on it. All right, so that was how that
shift. Okay, so I have a question for you. You said you shut down, you were working on Polaroid, which is now Filmport, and then you were still, essentially, Endowed Africa was still running in the background. How was it like switching your time between both of them? Or did you know that certainly you were going to shut down Endowed Africa and you just gave it less time? Maybe they'll still spend like a minute or two on this before we go to the next.
So to be honest, by January of 2025, it was the writing was on the wall. Policies were changing. So the reason why that shut down was economic situation, policies, and lack of finance. But financing didn't come because the international students market globally was unstable. UK was making it very difficult for international students. They were scapegoating international students. Canada was acting very interesting. Then um, we have US as well. US is the largest destination of international students in the world. And then it was becoming largely unfavorable. And these are the three biggest markets for Africans. Right. So if you combine that with the economic situation in Nigeria, which is the biggest international students, supplier of Africans, right? People, if 2 years before, 3 years before, if 100 people could afford to go and study abroad and were interested in those countries, by early last year, it was down to like 15, 20. Like, so the market was that strong. Most people now needed loans to go abroad. The ones that were still interested in those countries, because those countries were our specialty. And people that needed loans, we didn't, in as much as we're providing finance was part of what we're offering, but we couldn't raise the capital to make it happen because the market was highly doubtful, And I understand where the investors that turned us down, came from, and that's fine. So by January, the writing was on the wall that sooner or later it will happen. We're just trying to survive. But by that time, what we're trying to do is we're trying to sell the technology as we're trying to sell it as a B2B software. So it was a B2C software for individuals to pay their tuition. So we're trying to convert it to B2B for the institutions that brought to collect payments from the students. So but then the institutions were fighting their own wars as well. So we didn't have any success onboarding any institution. We tried for some months, we didn't have any success. Um it was just not working,
Yeah,
and
that's fine.
eventually we had to.
Yeah, well, I
So
understand. So I think it's fine. It's
although it was after it shut down that I registered Polaroid.
all right. Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it was after I shut down.
That's good. That's really good. So I think that I get a sense of your story now. So we want to get into the meat of this particular conversation, which is essentially,
All right.
why Africa should build its own platform. So I think the first question I have is that, first of all, let's just talk about a group of people like Africans, Chinese, or Indians. What happens to their culture when other people controls how their story travel? For example, I don't know if there's any African equivalent of Netflix today, maybe apart from Iroko TV. What do you think at a high level happens to a group of people if they make stories and that stories travel through other platforms? Do you think it's okay, provided it's just commercial, or do you think there should be a form of identity there? What are your views there?
Hmm. Okay, so let me start from here. Um, Let me look at it culturally. When a people don't tell their own stories, or don't tell it at the biggest platform, or don't tell it the loudest, the people who have the loudest speakers or the biggest platforms will tell their stories the way they see it, the way it fits their own agenda. And it may not be authentic or true or do your story the right way. And so what I'm trying to say is representation matters. Telling your own narrative matters. Right. Let me give you examples. I told you I grew up watching a lot of action films, both from Hollywood and I'm from the East, from China. Now, what has shaped for me and I believe my generation was to see US as the almighty country in the world. Now, this is not to say that the US is not strong. The US military is very strong, very potent, very large, very well funded, you know. But you would agree with me if I said the movies exaggerated it a bit or made them look much better than their Russian or Chinese counterparts. Now, whether I don't know whether the US is stronger than North Korea and China or Russia. I mean that has become a political statement in the world we're in today. I mean this is March 2026. We all know what's happening. There's no need to, and we all know what has been happening since President Trump came in. So I cannot give my own opinion of that. But those movies are conditioned us not to even consider these other countries are strong enough. These movies from these action films from China, made us see Chinese people as these guys. Automatically, if you see a Chinese person is great at martial arts, and that's a lie. There are few of them. It's not all of them. Do you get? That's on the, will I say, positive narrative. Let me give you another thing when it comes to narrative and representation. Do you know that there is no list in the world, like authentic list, that Nigeria is, there's no authentic list, or when it comes to fraud and money laundering, that has Nigeria as the biggest country where fraud and money laundering happen. Because in reality, there are some countries that have a lot more cases of this than Nigeria, but Nigeria does not know how to tell its own story. There are many Eastern European countries that they do these things, but if you mention fraud in any class, the first thing they will say is the Nigerian print. Because in as much as, do you want to tell me that corruption doesn't happen in the United States?
Happens everywhere.
Look at how the movies paint them. Corruption happens everywhere, right? So if you don't tell your stories, if you don't amplify the good things, if you don't emphasize what you want people to tell, the people that will eventually tell it, you only tell it how it suits them. Right. Another thing is, when we now bring it a little home to our conversation, is if you don't own your platforms, or if you don't have platforms where you can host your stories, you can easily get the platform.
Yes.
I mean, sometime last year, someone was complaining on LinkedIn. The person is Nigerian. They have a TV show, like a channel, that they host a lot of their content on YouTube for a while, and they built a large following and all of that. And one day, YouTube just removed their channel. Allegedly, it was no warning, no questions asked, no nothing. Their platform got stricken off. I don't know what they were saying on the platform that made YouTube do that. But the fact that that is a possibility without remorse tells us something. Is the agenda of whoever owns the platforms where our stories are told should flip, and they don't want you telling it. That's the end. For example, the faith-based communities, if YouTube should wake up and say, all these churches that have large followings on YouTube, we don't want them because we don't believe in the Christian faith, they can knock off everybody, and there's nothing you can do about it. All they need to just do is change their policy maybe 6 months before or 9 months before and say, policy and agreement update. You won't read it, you click accept. 6 months down the line, they just tell you, you know what, your content doesn't follow, bam, they knock you off. So you can be the platform. Another thing is you lose your history, right? So if you don't house or host your stories, you lose your history. Let me give you an example. Do you know that in Nigeria, for example, the Biafra War, the story of the gory things that happened, is not taught in history in Nigerian schools? And I think it's part of what's affecting. I don't want to get political, right? But it's the reason why a certain major tribe has never been able to produce a president, because everybody is one way or the other biased against them. And the bias is not necessarily right. So when people don't have access to the accurate and the right information, it does something to history, especially like historical facts. Right? Let's talk about the Great Walls of Benin. I mean, everybody talks about the Great Walls of China, but several, I think 600 BC or something, like thousands of years ago, the Benin Kingdom had great walls, and they were brought down, and it's just from history one way or the other. You literally need to have heard about it and do your research to find out that there was something like that in Africa. That was you could call it a sixth wonder of the world. Right. So if you don't have your own platforms and models, culturally, there's a lot you stand to lose. Yeah, there's a lot you can do.
Okay. Okay, that's very good. So I want to double down on this. You mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned number one is that you lose your history. Number two, you could be the platforms, and then you also mentioned a couple of things. But I want to double down. There is Netflix
Representation.
representation. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
there is Netflix. There is YouTube, which is
Mhm.
essentially the means by which we disseminate our creative work in Africa in these modern times digitally.
Mhm.
So even that these platforms have already they already have strategic real estate within the African communities, do you think there is a need for us, like a commercial need for us to see how, do you think there is something there for people to build platforms where Africans can essentially put their work and disseminate it to the public? Do you think there's a commercial, for lack of a better word, do you think there's a commercial case there? Do you think it's a problem worth solving beyond many of these things you've mentioned?
Yes, there's a commercial case there.
Yeah.
And while disclaimer at Filmport, we shy away from boxing ourselves into the Nigerian or African platform. The two co-founders were both Nigerian, right? But we are building for everyone in the world, but we cannot deny our African roots, right? One of the reasons, if you take our pitch deck, for example, one of the things that we used as a reason to build Filmport is the audiences of the filmmakers, wherever they are in the world, are not able to access their films. Let me paint a picture this way. Nigeria has, I think, over 50 million people in diaspora globally, or about, right? Nigerian film industry is very large, highly consumed by people in and out of Africa. A number of premium films come out of Nigeria, come out of South Africa, some from Ghana. Here is the problem. When your film goes to Netflix owns their own audience. They play by their own rules. They decide who gets to watch it. It is the reason you, as a Bay Area based Nigerian, who knows that a lot of great films are coming out of Nollywood, for example, in at this time of the year, a number of new films are coming out. Amazing ones. But you can't watch it except you find crook ways to do it, like maybe try to use a VPN, try to use someone's account or stuff. Why? Because Netflix decided that, you know what, they are Nigerian films. I want to show it to people who are physically in Nigeria alone. So now there's a lot of economic value that cannot be tapped into in the diaspora market. Right. So that's an example with Netflix. So with YouTube, how long do we have? If I walk you into the mathematics of YouTube.
As long as you have, you're the one that is determining this particular conversation. So
But let me just summarize what I want to say for YouTube. As for YouTube, I am a Nigerian filmmaker. I have, say, 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. I average 800,000 to 2.5 million or to 2 million viewers on each film I roll out, maybe every 2 months. But I'm based in Lagos or I'm based in Onitsha. If I had a counterpart, maybe my friend that we did school together in New York Film School, and he is based in New York, and he has the same stats as I do: 50,000 subscribers, 800,000 to 2 million views on each film. He doesn't even need to do a long form film. He only needs to do short film. And he's based in New York. It will likely be making 5 to 15 times what I'll be making per month on YouTube.
wow. Don't you
This
think
is something you can.
don't you think it's about audience? Don't you think it's about audience? Because again,
I'm going somewhere with that.
okay.
Now, he's not making more simply because of his skin color. He's making more because the business model around YouTube favors him more than it favors me. So I need to think about it. What works for me? It's not like YouTube will not pay me, but they won't pay me as much as they will pay him. They won't pay me enough to even break even to make a solid film. Occasionally, you have outliers. Occasionally. But on the average, every filmmaker who's publishing on YouTube is either publishing and making losses or publishing and breaking even, but publishing low budget, low quality. That is why you will find some filmmakers, right? Or you find some films on YouTube, very similar storylines, same set of actors, same plot, same everything. They acted it in the same house, used the same car. They probably shot the film one day and moved on. And there is no depth. The quality of storytelling is rubbish. The plot is gone. Some of them you find that even in post production you will find poor editing. Why? Because they are trying to turn out as many movies as possible and they are not using the best hands. So what works for the African audience? The Nigerian audience especially grew up on home videos, right? But the cinema has always been in picture as well. So our culture is you go out there to the kiosk, you rent a CD, you watch the film, you return it. That was what we grew up on. That's what has been in Nigeria. Our culture has been watching films that are relatable, not too posh and stuff. That one-time payment or rental makes a case for cinema experiences. Now, back in the day, there was something called traveling cinema, right? Where if you're promoting your film, then I think a popular friend did if you like that. I remember. So they will go around, they'll go to different campuses, different schools, rent a place, show a film to some people, buy, sell tickets. And that was how cinemas were happening before they became static infrastructure and became, mainstream like that. So what am I saying? As Africans, we need to find a business model that works for us. The YouTube business model doesn't favor the Toronto-based filmmaker over the Port Harcourt-based filmmaker because of his skin color. It's because of the business model. The business model requires, there to be people who pay enough for ads and enough of them to watch film from that part, and then a number of other things. Right? So what model works for us? We find it, right? And that's part of what we believe Filmport brings, for the African market, even if the model we believe works for everyone, whether you're based in Sweden or you're based in Norway or you're based in Namibia or you're based in Morocco or Australia, wherever you are as a filmmaker.
Wow, this is actually very, very powerful. So essentially what you're saying is that it is a business model case. So what Filmport is bringing is to essentially localize that business model so that filmmakers can be able to maximize what their community brings, especially the African community, and that is really interesting. So one question I want to ask about this is that who does this favor the most? Does this also favor the filmmakers and other people within the value chain? Or do you think that, or are you just bringing an option to them so that they can just decide what works for them amongst all the platforms? For me, the question I'm asking is that you just mentioned this, rental kind of culture we have, which I think is one of the biggest parts of these virtual cinemas you're building for Filmport, which in my view gives filmmakers a lot of, autonomy to be able to decide the economics of how they are going to be compensated for making quality films or films at all. The point I'm trying to make is that for your business model, are you giving these filmmakers the optionality? Can they decide, okay, I can put on YouTube, I can put on Filmport, I can put on Netflix? Or is it like more of they just solely decide to be locked into Filmport? Because one of the things why I'm asking this question is that, in my view, if you're signed or licensed to Netflix, that movie, you don't have that freedom to do same for YouTube and other platforms, in my view. But do you give them that optionality? And do you think that is also something that is important for them?
Good question. Thank you. So when a filmmaker publishes using Filmport, first of all, we don't take the film still belongs to them 100%. So we don't take ownership of any part of the film. Um, in terms of the distribution rights, they are free. I mean, it's on a case by case basis, but generally, we don't present exclusive deals with them. And it's really because we maybe in 6 months will change. I don't know. But as of today, our theory is let the filmmaker decide what they want to do. Just make sure you educate them enough to know what they stand to gain or lose, or what they need to put into to determine success. So if you come to us and you say you want to publish using Filmport, and then you want to publish on other platforms as well, first of all, Netflix will most likely not let you publish on Netflix and Filmport at the same time because there's a way their publishing agreements work. Right? And to be honest, if you look at the audience, what the amount of money you stand to gain, right? You will not put the same film that is on YouTube on Filmport, right? Because people, if it's free to watch on YouTube, why should I go and watch on Filmport? Where I have to buy tickets to watch it. And then there are other factors, like there is the piracy problem on YouTube. YouTube, you can download anybody's film from there and re-upload or whatnot, right? And if you spend 100 million naira building a film, or $250,000 or $500,000 creating a film, you don't want to put it on a platform that one irresponsible guy in singlet and boxers somewhere in one corner of nowhere downloads your film and uploads it on his own channel and makes some money before YouTube eventually takes it on. If they do early enough, you don't want to do that, right? So when you look at all the options available to you, so now the question is, Filmport, is it for every kind of filmmaker? Anybody can use it, but it's not for everyone. If as a filmmaker you're in the phase where you're just churning out content, it doesn't really need to be quality, and it's not the kind of content that maybe people will buy tickets to watch. That people buy tickets to watch. Mr. Man, just do your YouTube. Don't do. Why? Because YouTube has its own advantages, and I can't deny that. Netflix has its own advantages, and I can't deny that. So it's a new option. It's an option we hope everybody will use, but it provides a different strategy, a different flavor for distributing your film than what currently exists. And someone has even asked us before, like, are you saying someone that publishes their film on YouTube should not do that anymore? They should move to Filmport. You guess what my answer is?
What is it?
The answer is no. Continue doing your YouTube. Why? YouTube has how many users now? I don't know. Is it 2 billion?
Billions of users.
2.7 billion users. That's like a quarter of the world, right? Is on YouTube. Now, as a filmmaker, whether you're making money or not, you can build a large following there. You can use that as part of your roadmap to monetization. So you can be churning out content there and be building following. And then you have 100K users, 100K subscribers. Your film generates 5 million views every month. When you want to do a project where you know it's premium and you need to make money, you can find a way to prod and prop up that audience and bring them to where you can monetize them and engage them sustainably.
Okay, this is actually very powerful. This is very powerful. And I want to double down. I want to double down but before you go forward. So now you're talking about films, but there are other forms of content. One of them that is very appealing to myself is comedy. I like to go for comedy events, but unfortunately, I can't attend those events in Nigeria. Sports and some other form of entertainment related events. Filmport, is that part of your roadmap in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you see yourself just focusing on films, also giving other form of creators or creatives the opportunity to be able to monetize via your platform?
Let me tell you why I'm laughing. It's not 5 years.
Okay.
There is a comedian we are currently onboarding. So he did a stand-up show, a live show, he recorded it and post-produced it, and he specifically said he has audience and fans who are not in the country that all wanted to come and watch his show, but they couldn't. Now he's going to be publishing it using Filmport so that those people can watch.
Excellent. Perfect.
Now, sport. For sport, we have not thought of sport because the game of sport is a different beast of its own. Sport is highly competitive to get rights to show, very expensive, and of course, it's because it's highly demanded all over the world. Is it completely out of our strategy? No, we've just not put it on the front burner. But right now, a post-produced comedy show can go on our platform and someone can pay for it. Yeah.
Excellent. That is really, really good. So, just to be clear, I know you said it, but I want you to be very clear. Filmport was made by Africans, but it can be used by anyone in the world. Is that correct? Any film producer,
Yes,
any
yes,
filmmaker,
that's
anywhere
correct.
in the world. Okay.
Anywhere in the world, that's correct. I'll tell you why. We decided to go global first because for different reasons. Number one, commercial reasons. There are filmmakers in the Midwest, in the US, who will make a film and they have a loyal following of just 10,000 people who will pay them $20 each to watch their film. And they will make a cool killing silently and go home. Easy 200K for those guys. It's not the biggest number in Hollywood, right? It's not the biggest number in Hollywood. But if you make $200,000 in a film in Nigeria today, you will be on top 10 highest grossing in that year. You see where I'm going with that? So there are many filmmakers all over the world who have their loyal communities and they need to be able to monetize them. Filmport wants to be able to serve them. We deliberately curated our pipeline of films such that right now, if you check the list of films that we've earmarked that we're trying to discuss rights, they're on board. Half of them are not Nigerian. There are a lot of British films, South African films, Ghanaian films, Hollywood inside. We tried a pilot last year, didn't really work. And two of the films were with people paid to watch are one is a Hollywood film, one is a Nollywood film. So from day one, we're building for. So that's the first reason, commercial. The second reason is narrative. As much as I've said before that tell your own stories and all of that, there's something that kills some kind of businesses. It doesn't, I won't say kill, but we are trying to avoid a crab in the bucket battle or a battle of being misunderstood by delineating ourselves and clearly saying we are not a Nollywood platform. It is a good thing to be a Nollywood platform. We are definitely interested. Just as much as we will serve a lot of Nollywood content, right? If there are 200 films from Nollywood today that are premium films and people will pay for, we can hope for all of them. But does that mean we will limit ourselves to only Nollywood? No. We have people from Portugal, people from US and Canada who are asking about, like, I don't mean Nigerians based there. I mean Portuguese asking to do this. So the reason we don't want to box ourselves, as Nollywood is, or will I say another reason is there is a tendency for Nigerians to equate you to a particular brand that you might be completely different from when you say you're a Nigerian platform. So last year, around the time we started talking about what we're doing publicly, a few platforms were launched. Ebony Life on Plus by one of industry's biggest veterans, Moabudu. Solid caps to that woman, right? Ebony Life on Plus. There's Cover, there's Circuits, there's who else would I say? I mean, Iroko is not running anymore. There was Showmax as well. And these are these are platforms that are, their pride is we are the home of premium Nollywood content for anybody anywhere in the world to watch. And that is good. But we are choosing to play in the bigger ocean. Nollywood is one of the segments of the ocean. I mean, it's technology. I have experience building technology for people to use in North America, in other West African countries, in Europe, right? So why don't we build in such a way that we can check the dashboard 10 months down the line, 12 months down the line, I'll see that we're generating most of our revenue from independent filmmaker communities in Eastern Europe. That's fine. I don't mind. We're generating most of our revenue from the West Coast, right? That's fine. I don't mind, right? But but at the same time, we'll serve the African content, and we'll happily serve it properly, and we'll maintain our identity. I mean, my name is Mayowa Ayodeji. I'm Yoruba, I'm Nigerian. I'm the founder. My co-founder Ayoba Ayodeji. You know, we're Nigerians. We can't deny that. We will serve Nigerians, but we are just choosing not to settle to serve only Nigeria. We're choosing to serve as many and this is the world of technology. It scales with demand. So why should we limit ourselves to?
Okay, we are rounding up to the last question, but one question before the last. This thing you just mentioned, I just want to. Do you think that this is just your own perspective, or do you think that this is the way an African creator or an African technologist should think? Should they create for the world, irrespective of where they are domiciled, or should they just create for their own people and solve their unique problems, considering that their people's problems might be different from what is applicable to other parts of the world, or it just depends?
Okay, so if they should solve the problems based on their own personal agenda, right? Everybody has an agenda. Everybody does. For Africans who are creating content, why are you creating the content? Who are you creating it for? If you fall on the side of the scale where your content sort of preserves identity, preserves culture, preserves history, and that, focus on that. Build for local context, and you can make money from local content. You can make a lot of money from local content. But there is also a different side of it where you are standing out and reaching out to the world with something, and you want to have influence beyond your local context as well. If that's part of your agenda, create for that. There's a reason why. Let me ask you a question. Why is Netflix still available for African market? They don't make as much money from African market. I would try not to be a conspiracy theorist here, but to be honest, if you look beneath the surface, business-wise, making a loss from this part of the world. I mean, it's why they stopped commissioning originals. If you have just 200,000 subscribers who are paying you, how much is premium Netflix subscription per month in Nigeria? It's about 8,500. That's about $6. So 200,000 people, subscribers for Netflix, active subscribers, times $6. So you make $1.2 million from this market. Let me quickly. How much does Netflix make a year? From subscription. Netflix makes 38 billion. They make $38 billion a year. In that 38 billion, only 14 million comes from Nigeria. But they are still serving Nigerian customers every time. And the infrastructure cost that will get them to serve Nigerian customers is a lot. Right? So why are they still doing it? There is what they want to show you. They know they are not making money from it. So it's that time that you ask yourself, yes, I need to build for local context, I need to preserve, and whatnot. But I have an agenda. Is my agenda to the home front, the continent, and all of that? I go hard at it. But do I have an agenda that involves stepping beyond the shores, you know, into the different nooks and crannies? I be for that as well. What I'll tell every African builder and creator today is you can decide what you want to do and do it. One of the things I want to stand for. Like, you can decide that from Yaba in Lagos, you are building a software that people are paying you from Toronto to Maryland to Houston to Coventry to London to Paris to North Kent, wherever in the world, paying you to use the software unapologetically. You can do it if you choose to do it. If that's part of your agenda, go ahead and do it. See, if in the world, if we claim the world is a global village and internet has simplified the world, we need to stop limiting ourselves to, oh, if I'm building something from Ibadan, someone in New York cannot be using it and paying me in Ibadan to use it. It is can be accessible on the internet, they can use it and they can pay me to do it. So that's what I would say regarding that. African creators, look at your agenda, look at what you want to achieve, look at the field you are playing in. If it pays you to build for the world, go ahead and do it without apologizing. And go ahead and sell to people abroad without apologizing. If your business is focused on the local context and everything, local culture, go ahead and do it as well. Nothing stops you.
Thank you very much, Mayowa. I think this what you said is just excellent. Just depends on your agenda. Whatever your agenda is, focus on it
Yeah.
and get it done.
Yeah, just focus on it.
Makes sense.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think the Koreans growing up some years ago, say 10 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, um, K drama was already in Nigeria. We just didn't know. K drama it went mainstream as all those 32 in one CDs that they used to sell on the streets, that they used to sell near university campuses. K drama was mainstream in Nigeria then. But because most people were not consuming film on the internet, they didn't know. It's not that we're saying, K drama, this is Netflix. Before Netflix was in Nigeria, K drama was here. Do you think the K drama people did not know that their films were being pirated here? Did you? No. Alright, so I'll stop there, but Netflix themselves, they get their own agenda.
Interesting. And Filmporte too has its own agenda and is getting on
Yeah,
that.
so we have.
I think on the basis of that, you've already mentioned where you want to be, not just in the next 5 years, but actually. So, what are we expecting from you before the end of 2026? What are we expecting from Filmporte? What are the good things we are expecting from Filmporte?
Okay, good. So the things you expect from the good things that you would hear or see from Filmport are by the end of this year, there's a certain number of films we want to publish, and hopefully it will be in a very decent split where at least a third or 40% of the films that will be published by the end of the year will not be Nollywood films. Not because Nollywood films are not great, but we are being intentional about the diversity. The films that we will publish by the end of the year, they will be wildly successful, right? The filmmakers will net good amounts because that's the problem we didn't mention on this call, and it's a universal problem. Filmmakers many times don't make their money back. They don't make their money back, right? Even in physical cinemas, it's worse in Nigeria, right? So, yes, by the end of the year, the goal this year is to just put out films and make a dent in the industry and prove to people that virtual cinemas, pay-per-view, filmmaker-led structures work for the industry. It should take beyond just this year to prove that, but I want to prove it because if the revenue shares, if the money is being spread out in a more transparent and sustainable, well-structured way, everybody makes more money proportionally. So right now, if you publish your film using physical cinemas in Nigeria, the cinemas take 50% of the gross revenue. The filmmakers, that's the main producer, will go home with less than 30% of the gross revenue as his own gross. So it is from that less than 30% that it will remove the investor money, remove the this one money, remove the down money, and remove that one money before you now think about what am I going home with. This is reality today. If you go to Hollywood, we talk about residuals. We talk about how there are some actors that if you put them in your film, just know that a good chunk of your revenue is gone. They will bring numbers, but they will take those numbers. You know, so it is what it is, right? What are the big things apart from showing films, apart from publishing, powering a number of big films that we're going to do and a number of films that will do well. There are some programs that we're going to be rolling out for the filmmaking ecosystem as well, because you don't need to be a big shot to create a good film and make money from it. That's one of the points I want to prove. You don't need to be the most popular filmmaker who has the most popular cast line. I should be able to watch a film that it's not Funke Akindele that made it or Kunle Afolayan that made it, and be able to enjoy it for the quality of the film, not expecting that I must see Genevieve inside, I must see Amsimo, I must see whatever other big name inside before I can enjoy it. Even if I've not met these actors before, or I've not seen them in a previous film before, I can appreciate good storytelling, good production, and be proud that I paid for it without it being anchored on an A-list name. And for us to be able to do that, the people who are not the A-list need to be able to make money from their films. Right. So those are some of our agendas. I mean, or some of our driving principles. What else do you expect from us? I mean, it's still the very early stages. We're just about to turn 1 year old when it comes to if you're counting from registration. There's a lot of foundational stuff still happening. Um, in month of April, there are a number of films that will go live, like tickets will start selling for some films. Um, May, some will start showing, and on like that. Of course, we've said it over and again, not to sound like a broken record, we're Africans, we're building for the world. In as much as we're building for the world, some of the first set of films that we will publish will largely be African films, right? But as we go on, diversity will be clearer. None of that. And there'll be some films that we're going to power that you won't even know that we're the ones that powered it. Except for maybe when you're paying for your ticket and you see, our name or something. Because we're going to be having films will be hosted in virtual cinema rooms that are branded after the film. Just the way for Shopify. Shopify can be powering an e-commerce store, maybe that sells gift items, and you don't know it's Shopify because they've been able to brand their storefront. So that will be available for filmmakers as well, where I can just say, mayowa.ayodeji.com. I am going to be showing my films on my own virtual cinema as part and back and back and forth.
Excellent. So I think we are already at time, but one last question. Is there any hope for AI generated content?
That's true. We've actually spent some time. I just checked the time. Hope for AI generated content.
Or AI generated films, because it's becoming something that is rampant. There is this particular series, but short film I follow on Instagram. It's very funny in terms of storyline. Storyline is actually interesting, but the actors are like AI generated people. Is there hope for people like that? Because I'm expecting that the population of filmmakers will be increasing as more people tend to use tools like AI to create their own stories. Is there hope for them within?
Yes, there's hope for it. There's on a platform like Filmporte.
Platform like Filmporte, yes.
Okay. So let me start from Filmporte, and I will talk about what it is generally. So for Filmporte, there's no hope for AI generated filmmaker, but there is hope for AI generated content. Right. So you know how on some platforms today, especially music, for example, you find some musicians that are not human. and the content was generated using AI, and the actors are all the musicians are AI musicians, right? We won't be doing that thing because there's a huge KYC implication to what we do, right? So that risk will not allow us publish will I say publish films that have been generated by AI agents. Or no, let me put it like this. There needs to be a real person behind the film, right? Now, the film itself can have AI component, right? So, but there needs to be a human behind it. That's just what I'm saying. Human behind it with verifiable identity and all of that, because there are a lot of legal and financial, implications to film. Now, on the general industry, there is hope for AI content, but there's a caveat I want to make. What AI does for us is it has created a level playing field for anybody to be able to bring their own ideas to life at a fraction of the cost of what it will have taken them if they needed to assemble a film crew for different part of the world to shoot and produce a film. However, human beings know quality stuff. Human beings know unique stuff. There will still be a differentiation in quality storytelling and post production. So, what AI will now expose is that there are many average creators and there are fewer exceptional ones. Because eventually, because of slop and technology and lack of creativity, a lot of things will now become similar. Then, the truly creative people, the truly innovative people, the people who are truly great at their craft, will now use AI to deliver outstanding work that will now be clear as they file, you know, layers and years better than the others. And they will begin to stand out. Even if they're using AI. You'll not phrases like there's AI and there's AI will not start coming out. Right. So AI is only a tool. It gives everybody access to create stuff. But the truly creative people, the truly innovative people, they will still stand out at the end of the day. So there's hope for AI, but we're just creating a different kind of specialists. So you now find people who are amazing storytellers, but then they are deadly when they handle AI tools. You can then have someone who is an average storyteller, even if he's deadly using an AI tool, his story will still not be as great as the other one who is a great storyteller. And it will be shown. It will show after a while.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mayowa. I think is there one question you feel like I should have asked you throughout this conversation that I did not ask? You can ask that question and answer it. I think that would be the last.
I wasn't expecting it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
It's okay if there is none. That means we did a great job.
Well, I mean, I don't think there is. I mean, none comes to mind right now. But yeah, I think I've enjoyed the conversation. I mean, I've spoken a lot more than I even thought I would. Great speaking with you about this. I think there are areas we didn't cover. Maybe talking more about the business model and more information on Filmporte. But I mean, you can always access that you know anywhere really. Maybe how to reach us. Our website is www.filmport.com. filmport.com. My, you can reach me at mayo@filmport.com, or reach us at hello@filmport.com. All our social media channels or platforms are Filmport at Filmport. Filmport. X, Instagram, TikTok. Where else are we? I don't know. I'll ask what you think. But yes, it's all the same. We truly believe that this is a new and better way for filmmakers to put out their content and for consumers or viewers, especially in diaspora, to watch premium content, as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayowa. I really enjoyed the conversation too, and we look forward to what Filmport is going to do, not only for African filmmakers, but for independent filmmakers or budget filmmakers that are looking to monetize their content without going to big platforms where they don't have a lot of leverage. I think it makes a lot of sense, and look forward to what you are going to do with Filmporte in the next coming years. Thank you very much, Mayowa. And
thank you, Testimony. It's great speaking with you. Bye.
Great speaking with you.